Hello, this is psychicpodcasts.com. I'm Psychic Sahar. Hello, today we're going to talk to US professional channel, Asandra. Asandra considers herself a multidimensional being. This is expressed in her work as an artist, a writer, and a trans channel. Asandra lives in Florida, in the United States. For more information on Asandra, please check her website www.asandra.com. Today we're going to discuss what is it like to be a professional channel, what does it mean to be a channeler, and how does one receive spiritual guidance. I hope you'll enjoy our conversation. Hello Asandra, and thank you for talking to us today.
Oh, greetings, Sahar. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to be able to have you, particularly I know that you went through a big hurricane recently in Florida.
That's true. Well, hurricanes are really transformational energies, and once an individual understands that what's going on in their life is bringing them into transformation, then we can move through it a little more gracefully.
Yes, that's true. Now, Asandra, you are a professional channel and an artist. We'll talk about the art a bit later on. But for those who don't know, what is channeling?
Well, channeling is a process where an individual acts as a conduit or a vehicle for spirit guides to speak through. And a spirit guide specifically is a being that has evolved in their own awareness and wisdom. So they're not God, but they have a high level of clarity. And so what this does is allow them to provide the individual that's receiving the channeling with guidance that supports them on their higher path. Now, specifically, I'm a trance channel.
Right.
What that means is that I go into this very deep altered state. So when I'm channeling, the individual gets to talk to their guides directly, as opposed to someone that might relay messages from spirit. Yes.
And when you channel, are you, as Asandra, aware of what comes through, or is it as though you'd completely step out?
I completely step out. In fact, not only do I never remember what I channel, but I really don't even discuss the sessions with the client.
Right.
It's very private between them and their spirit guides.
Right. Why do we need to have? Why do we need to channel, or why do we need to have a channeled reading? How can that help us on a practical level?
Well, I wouldn't say that anyone needs to have a channeling, but there is a specific value in the experience. You see, spirit guides have a kind of bird's eye view of our larger soul's path, and so this enables them to provide guidance for us from this expanded perspective. It's as though they see us as the true soul beings that we are. And what happens is that when we see ourselves, we're looking through the lens of our own opinions and perceptions, and they don't have that. So what happens is that they're able to guide us on a very high level and give us this clarity about where we're headed on our path. So that's why there's value in doing it.
So perhaps it allows us to sort of zoom out of our situation and then gain a different perspective.
You see, what happens is that the spirit guides see us as who we were before this lifetime and who we are evolving into. So they have this very large viewpoint that we don't normally have access to. And so that gives them a unique position to bring us information.
That's interesting. Can anyone channel, Asandra?
Well, I believe that ideally anyone can channel, but it's really important that the individual is not only trained by someone experienced, but they're very clear about what kind of energy that they're bringing in. For example, you might be very discerning about choosing your friends. So you also want to be discerning about what type of energy you're attracting to guide you in your life.
Yeah.
So it's crucial that we're connecting with the highest source of inspiration and guidance.
There's also what is called as conscious channeling.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, a conscious channel is simply someone that's a little bit more present in their body. But it doesn't really make a difference what type of channeling the person does. It's really the clarity of the information that's important.
Would you say, is it safer for the layman to start with conscious channeling?
Well, what I would recommend to someone who wants to start is to basically begin by first connecting with whatever they consider to be the highest source of energy.
Right.
So God, creator, source. So first call on that to protect you and be with you. And then that individual can call upon their personal spirit guides that are working with them specifically on their highest path and just ask them to be with them. And that's a way to begin to connect at that level.
If someone, let's say, is not aware of spirit guides, or they don't kind of factor that in their belief system, can we still look at this as channeling my higher self or my highest source of wisdom?
Absolutely. And in many ways that factors in anyway, because really you are spirit also.
Yes.
So you're calling on your own highest self, and that's the part of us that we're evolving. I mean, we don't want to develop a dependency on some outer form, even spirit guides, because really they are helping us to get in contact with our own higher self.
Right. Because, as you might, well, of course, I'm sure you know, science increasingly tells us that everything is connected. And I feel sometimes calling them spirit guides or other guides could also be a metaphor for just other form of energies that we are part of.
In some ways, it almost doesn't matter how you define it as long as you're getting the clarity.
Right. So you're really emphasizing on the clarity and the level of information or where it's coming from.
Absolutely. Although I will say that I did write a desktop published manual called Contacting and Working with Your Spirit Guides. And in the manual, what I do is I give very practical information to help the individual so that they really are protecting themselves, so that they know how to call on the highest guidance, and different processes within that. So there's always a very practical way to go about getting that highest information.
I must say that you've sent me your manual, and I have tried it about a year ago since I first met you. And I've not only found that very useful, it actually got me to channel, and I've been recommending it to my clients. And a client of mine recently sent me an email saying that she's made a connection immediately just after trying it for the first time. So I feel that you're really helping quite a lot of people by putting out your manuals, which is really your culmination of experience, life experience in channeling. So I must really thank you for that. That was tremendous help.
Thank you. That manual was based on workshops that I used to give. And what I would find is that I could get in there, and it doesn't matter what level someone was on, whether they were resistant, whether they were open. By the end of that class or seminar, everyone was channeling.
They're able to bring information. Yeah.
Yes, basically I could get them to realize that they already had the connection. And once they knew that, they stopped struggling and they just allowed the process to happen.
So we can say in layman terms that channeling is about inspiration, or allowing us to see things from a different perspective to bring clarity and solution, so to speak, into a certain situation or an issue that we need.
Yes, and it's really about getting the highest level of guidance that assists the individual in walking their true destiny path.
Let's say I'm a businessman or a mother with teenage children or so on. What sort of things can I ask my guides to help me?
Well, you can really ask for information on any level, daily issues, emotional ones, psychological, spiritual. But really what happens is that all the questions are interconnected, and Spirit has a way of helping that individual see that whatever question they're asking, in other words, whatever position they're asking from, they're really asking about their true path. Because underneath it all, we all want to return back to that true connection and be fulfilled. So I always tell people when they're preparing for a session with me to write down some questions in advance, because it helps them to get very clear about what they really want to know.
So most of us might think that a relationship with spirit or higher guidance is sort of holy, serious, that we can't ask anything. So you're saying we can ask information on any level?
Yeah, because it's all part of the same energy. In other words, let's say someone is unhappy with their job, and they're asking about that to Spirit. And then what Spirit might help them to see is that what they're really looking for is their higher purpose. So they're going from maybe what's sort of mundane, but it's really a very high, powerful question that's coming from their soul. And the thing about Spirit is that they can identify what the real issue is. So it doesn't matter what you ask. I mean, generally I tell people not to waste their time asking something like, what color car should I buy, because that would be silly. But I always tell people to ask the deepest soul-based questions, the things that are the most important to you.
That kind of tunes into my next question to you about channeled readings or having a reading with you. I first met you through my friend, mentor, and teacher, former teacher, Marin Jose, and she sort of gave me the reading as a gift, so to speak, to allow me that clarity as well, at a time when I needed to have things, I would say, untangled. So they weren't necessarily unclear, but there was more clarity that was needed.
Yes.
And I realized when I listened to your reading, really a lot has happened since the first reading that we've had. Now, how, for people who have not had a channeled reading, how would you say or describe that the channeled reading is different from having, for example, a psychic reading or an astrological reading? You were talking a lot about the soul and the path.
Okay. Well, what happens is that when a person comes for a session, they're going to, at least with me, they're going to meet some of their personal guides. And I cannot guarantee that they're going to get predictive information that maybe they would get in a psychic reading or an astrological
reading. Right.
Because what happens is Spirit will come through and they're going to give that person the information that is the most relevant for them at that specific time.
Right.
And Spirit may feel it's necessary to address a deeper emotional issue or a spiritual issue at a given time. So they can't just say, well, this is going to happen because maybe they see a block in the way and they want to help that person heal that block so that then they can arrive at that higher point.
That's interesting. So it can be very relevant to what's around us right now, and it's not necessarily about prediction, but more so what we need to do in order to get there, so to speak.
Yes, it's true, because Spirit really wants us, their highest desire is for us to complete our soul's purpose. So they're going to tell that individual whatever they need at that moment to get them to that place of highest fulfillment.
Right.
So it's not only saying, well, what's going to happen, it's how do you get there? What do you need to do to get there?
Right. So I almost call that sort of like getting back on the highway of life so that you're able to continue the journey,
Exactly.
Avoiding the bumps and so on.
That's right.
Asandra, you're also a writer. You're a channel, of course, we talked about that, and you're an artist. Can you tell us a little bit, does it become blurry between all these things for you to follow up?
Well, being a writer, a channel, and an artist are three distinct disciplines. So in a way, the line doesn't blur, but I do feel an increased integration in my life of all of these forms of expression. And one of the things that Spirit is always trying to get us all to see as we evolve into a more awakened state of being is that we are multidimensional. So what that means is that the various talents and gifts that we all have are expressions of our true essence. And in my own life, I'm always trying to express this essence in any form. And, Spirit says that the form is less important than the energy that's behind the form.
That's right. So basically inspiration can take a form of the word or the art or artistic ability, creativity, or being a writer. So when we're inspired, I feel that we activate that inspiration on different dimensions, that it is available to us. I guess what I'm trying to say is one thing that I almost hear from most of clients when I say you're going to write something, or they go like, no, I'm not creative, I'm not artistic. But what you're saying, I guess, do you feel that once you start something, the rest of the processes sort of unfold?
Yes, because we really truly are multidimensional. And when a person just allows themselves to open up to that energy, it's amazing what can come through. And perhaps like you, I have also done that in my life, just really opened up and I never trained as a writer. I never thought I'm a writer, but then I just started having a need to express myself, and it would just come out beautifully because I was allowing that energy to come through me. I think the key is feeling a sense of purpose behind what you're doing, and then it elevates it to another level.
That's right, but what you're also saying, in other words, what I hear you saying, is that once we attune ourselves with our soul path or inspiration, channeling can also help us sort of tap into that creativity, writing, whatever, or painting, whatever we choose it to be.
Exactly.
So
and sometimes they do blend together as one thing.
Did the channeling start first and then the art and then the writing, or what was it like for you? What was your experience?
Well, art is something that I've been doing ever since I could pick up a crayon. So that was certainly the first thing. And I probably started writing poems when I was in junior high school, but I never really thought of myself as a writer. But what happened is that when I developed as a channel, over time I felt this need to communicate about what I was doing. So the writing actually was the last thing to reappear. I mean, it showed up earlier on, but I didn't recognize the value of it until I needed to communicate what Spirit was talking about.
Asandra, is there a connection, in your opinion, between art and spirituality? I mean, we can also talk, what is spiritual art or channeled art?
Well, I don't personally do channeled art, although there's such a thing as channeled art and channeled writing, and that means that the person may not necessarily have an obvious talent, but Spirit may write through them, and I also do channeled writing, and Spirit may paint through them. So it really is, I think everything we do that's from our soul, I mean, it could be cooking or washing the dishes, running errands.
Absolutely. That can be inspired, yes.
Yes.
What about your art? How does the inspiration come?
Well, that's a good question. Probably the hardest one for me to answer. I would say that because I'm doing my best to live in that energy connection all the time, I really just feel this energy moving through me, and I have an urge to just paint. I don't even plan ahead of time.
Really?
I might just have a feeling about a symbol or a color, and I just take out paint and canvas or paper, and I actually just start working spontaneously. So in a way, I'm allowing it to come through me, but I'm using my formal training to navigate me through the process.
Right. Because I feel when I look at your drawings, your paintings on your website, it's as though it's encrypted, as though there's much more just to the symbols or the configuration that we see. Do you feel the quality, for example? I mean, do you feel like today this piece is about so-and-so, or I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more.
Well, right now I've been working on a series of paintings called The Forgotten Language, and it's really just what you said. It's encrypted, but not in a literal sense. In other words, I'm inventing this language, but I don't really know what it means. I just feel that we have some part of us that remembers at a higher level where we are all archetypally connected. And so I really just want to express that we are connected. And I'm doing it through using these very beautiful symbols and signs and colors and textures.
That's wonderful. Asandra, what's in store for you? What's next on your agenda?
Well, as I said, I'm working on it's an ongoing series called The Forgotten Language.
Yes.
And I'm also working on a channel book called The Guided Path. And this book is mostly a channel book. And it's an effort to compile the wisdom of Spirit into a form that can reach a larger audience.
Oh, that's wonderful. Would that be an e-book, or is it a proper book that's going to come out later on?
Well, I would really like to see it be a proper book just because I love books and I like to hold them and feel them and smell them. So I really want it to be that.
Of course, I'm also aware that you were part of another book. Can you tell us a little bit about that? The Chocolate for the Soul, I believe. I remember reading a caption about a little story that you've told.
Yes, it was true stories, true spiritual stories, and basically it's called More Hot Chocolate for the Mystical Soul.
That's right, More Hot Chocolate for the Mystical Soul.
And it's part of a New Age series that was very popular. Basically, I really just wrote a true story about how I had my first mystical experience and how I saw the light and consciousness in every single thing. And from that moment, and I was about 16 at the time, from that moment my life completely changed because I could no longer see life in an ordinary way.
That's right. And Asandra, if people want to get more information on your work, on the art and on the channeling, we have, I know, your website, asandra.com.
Yes.
You also have the guidedpath.net.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And I believe, do you have one more website, or is that a new one in progress?
No, that's enough. Those two keep me very busy. I'm always updating them and changing them.
Yes. And I really very much enjoy your newsletter as well. So it's quite nice to be updated on the new projects. And you have quite a lot of material available, actually, on the Guided Path.
Yes, and I'm always trying to add more and more, and the idea is that it will complement this eventual book. So that I want to begin to relay that information of spirit that's just available. So anyone can just go there and read some of the articles, and they could subscribe to the newsletter if they want. So it's all available on either website.
Right, and there's, of course, you write a column on our affiliate magazine, online magazine, MarlianNews.com, MarlianNews.com. So if people wanted to have more information on channeling, they could always access that.
Absolutely.
Finally, Asandra, one thing that life has taught you?
Well, what life has taught me is that it's absolutely essential to remember who we are and why we're here. And ultimately, we are evolving into a higher, awakened state of being. And I think that that is the true purpose of our life. So I would say that life has taught me to stay on path and to remember my highest purpose.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Asandra, for talking to us today. And I hope you'll be a guest on Psychic Podcasts again soon.
I would love that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.